All right, welcome back. U.S. History Civics Test Preparation video number 2. Hopefully you watched video number 1. Some of this is review and some of this is new. Let's get into it. Okay, 3 branches of government. What are they? Legislative, executive, judicial. Bam, you should know that. What does the legislative branch do? They make the laws. Then the executive branch enforces the laws. Judicial branch reviews the laws. Okay, you should all know that. Okay, Congress, President, Supreme Court. Good? Feel good? Let's keep going. Okay, make your note card. The President serves for 4 years, right? You can have 2 terms, 8 years total, but you're elected. You're going to serve for 4 years. If it's the war power, what's the President's responsibility in the war power? He is the commander-in-chief. If it's the law-making power, what is the President's responsibility? He signs or can veto the law. Here's a new little fact for you. How old do you have to be president? 35. Okay, 35. Let's keep going. Okay, so real quick, without looking at your notes, straight from memory, how many senators does your state have? 2, because every state has 2 senators. Got it? And how long do you serve for if you're a senator? 6 years. If you're a representative, how long do you serve for? 2 years. What's one of the differences between, the senator and the representative? Okay, the senator represents the entire state, and the representative represents your district. Okay, feel good? Let's get going here. There's the Senate. There's the House of Representatives. Together, we call that Congress. All right, here's your Senate card. Each state gets 2. Make sure you got that on the flashcard. You serve for 6 years. You represent your entire state. You must be 30 years old. Write it down and study it. Your House of Representatives card. There are 435 members of the House of Representatives. Once you're elected, you are elected for 2 years. And you represent the people of your district. And you only have to be 25 years old. Let's look at this real quick. You're 25. You serve a small population. You serve your district. You want to serve your state? Then you've got to be 30 years old. You want to serve the entire country? You've got to be 35 years old. Does that make sense? You've got to be older to have more responsibility. Are we tracking? All right, awesome. What else do I want to mention? So if the president serves for how many years? 4 years, right? So a senator will be there longer than the president if they're elected at the same time. And the representative is going to have to run for re-election during the presidency. This is going to create a system where they have to work together, or maybe there's some overlapping power. What do we call that? Checks and balances. Okay, it's not what we'd say is a classic example of checks and balances, but it's a little bit of one. Okay, the senator is going to be there longer than the president, possibly, unless the president gets re-elected. Any questions? All right, here we go. You've got the legislative branch. They can declare war. They can print the money. They regulate the commerce between states. What does the executive branch do? All right, you got commander-in-chief. They enforce the laws. They sign treaties. And then the judicial branch, for our purposes, they can declare a law unconstitutional. Okay, we're going to say they review the laws. Okay. Checks and balances. Let's review. So let's take the law power. Only the legislative branch can make the laws. However, the executive branch can either sign the law or veto the law. And even if these 2 groups make the law, the judicial branch can declare it unconstitutional. So they get a piece of the action, they get a piece of the action, they get a piece of the action, and only when they come together is that law created and then validated. Does that make sense? You take the law power and you divide it up into 3 branches of government, so not one branch of government has all the power. Are you tracking? Do you feel good about that? Law power, war power, divide this stuff up. First 10 amendments to the Constitution are called what? 1, 2, 3. Bill of Rights. You got it. Who is the father of our country? If you don't know, you're about to know. George Washington, okay? The first president He is considered the father of America. If you have to pick one founding father that gets the most credit, you pick George Washington. Feel good? How do you remember it? George Washington, dollar bill. All right, what's the supreme law of the land? The Constitution. 1, 2, 3, what's the supreme law of the land? Say it. You didn't say it. Try again. There you go, Constitution. Okay. That just means that if you make any laws, eventually the Constitution can tell you whether that law is valid or not. Okay, the Constitution is the top law. Okay, it sets up the framework of government, it defines the government, and as we know, it protects basic rights. What are the 10 amendments that protect your basic rights? 1, 2, 3. Bill of Rights. All right, cool. And you don't have to worry about too much how it sets up the government, but it does in Article 1, 2, and 3. Let's roll. Okay, rule of law. I'm going to attempt to draw something here. As you can tell, my drawing is awesome, and it's even more awesome when I use a mouse. So let's see if this works. What does that look like? Does it look like a crown? All right. Rule of law means that law is the king, or law is the ultimate authority. Okay? Everyone must follow the law. No one is above the law. That's what the rule of law means. That the law is in charge. The law is the ruler in theory, and no person is above the law. Okay? Rule of law. What are our two major political parties? The Republicans and the Democrats. Okay? Which one of these is a federal power? Now we're getting into some harder questions, okay? Real quick. To provide schooling, that's a state power. Do you have a driver's license yet? If you don't, take a look at a driver's license. It's got the state ID on it, okay? So that's going to be a state power. How about the police that patrol around your town? What does it say on the side of the door? Does it say the United States government? Probably not. It probably says the name of your town or the name of your county. Maybe it says the name of your state. So those are not going to be federal powers. So which one is the federal power? To make treaties with other nations, okay? To make treaties. You're not going to be able to memorize every single power of the federal government. So what I want you to do is start to think through in your mind. When you see driver's license, you go, okay, does the driver's license have a big red, white, and blue USA on it? No, it has your state ID on it. Okay, that's going to be a state power. My school, where do I get funding for this? What type of school do I go to? Do I go to a public school that, is in a district that's in my state or in my county or my city? Yeah, my district. That's local. Okay, it's not going to be school. I don't go to an American government provided state national school. That's the word I was looking for. National school. Same with police departments. Okay, try to figure these out the best you can. Okay, who does the senator represent? Your state. And here I've got a little link. You can click on it and you can learn more. Okay, make sure you know that. Who wrote the Declaration of Independence? 1, 2, 3. Thomas Jefferson. You don't need to know this, but Thomas Jefferson was heavily influenced by Locke. Remember Locke? He says life, liberty, and the pursuit of property, or life, liberty, and property, and then Thomas Jefferson changes it to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Don't worry, you don't need to know that. Just who wrote the Declaration of Independence? Thomas Jefferson. What does the Declaration of Independence do? Declares our independence from Great Britain. Okay, these are little factoids. You writing them down on the side. Can you pause the tape and write it down? You bet you can. In fact, you should. What does the Declaration of Independence do? I just talked about it. Declares our independence from Great Britain. Excellent. Now it says it on the slide. Fantastic. What's an amendment? Okay, it's an addition to the Constitution. Okay, this is how you change the Constitution. You write an amendment. So, there was a time that during Prohibition we wanted to ban alcohol. Boom, you make an amendment. That's it. You banned alcohol. But then they wanted to bring alcohol back. So what do? Boom, they make another amendment. Okay, that is how you change the Constitution. What is the Constitution? The supreme law of the land. Okay, don't forget that. How many amendments are there? 27. Listen, what are the first 10 amendments called? Bill of Rights. You should know the first 10 amendments of the Bill of Rights. You should probably know at least half of them, if not all of them. We can go through them real quick. Ready? All right, here we go. Bill of Rights, we're talking about them. Here we go. 1, you do this to your lips, you point to the sky. The First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom of religion. There's other things included, but we got to keep going. 2nd, boom, right to bear arms, okay? 3 is a crowd, no quartering act. 4, you knock on the door, got to have a search warrant to come in. 5, okay? The right to not self-incriminate. It's not technically the right to remain silent. That's a Miranda right. Don't worry. But if that helps you remember it, that's fine. The right to not testify against yourself. Okay? 6, speedy trial. 7, jury trial. 8, you do handcuffs or $8 million bail or something. No cruel and unusual punishment. 9, 9 is you move your thumb like that. There are more rights than we have time to list. There's other rights, but we can't write them all down. And then 10, states have rights. Get off me, federal government. Something like that. You can use these hand signals to help you remember. Let's keep going. U.S. Congress has 2 parts. What are they? What are the 2 parts of the Congress? The Senate and the House of Representatives. Okay, know that cold. Boom. It's nap time. Psych! It's map time. All right, you need to know what's the longest 2 rivers in the United States. If you're in class, we're getting out maps. If you're at home, you got to look it up. Okay? Know a few other things. Name some mountain ranges in the United States. Can you do that? What about the oceans that border the United States? Pacific, Atlantic. Do you know where they're at? Do you know what they're called? Do you know the mountain ranges? Do you know where they're at? Do you know what they're called? What about major rivers? Just give me 2 major rivers. Fair enough? All right, cool. What is freedom of religion? It means you can pick any religion you want, or you can pick no religion at all. So it means you can practice any religion or not practice any religion. Does that make sense? By the way, Reynolds versus the United States says that the government has the right to regulate what you do, but not what you believe. So you can believe whatever you want. You can't do whatever you want. If you believe that the Flash is your god and your goal is to go as fast as you can all the time, and you're on the speed limit, you're on the car doing 150 miles an hour down the freeway, hey man, I'm in the religion of Flash. No. You can believe that, but you can't do that, according to Reynolds versus the United States. How does the preamble begin? Let me show you. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, etc., etc. Now, this is what the question will be. Where does the Constitution, or where does the United States get its political power? Where does the government get its political power? From we the people. All you need to know are, oops, I didn't mean to cross it out. I meant to underline it. All you need to know are those 3 words and what they mean. We the people. We establish this government. This government is in our hands.
Ever heard of checks and balances? No, not for a bank account. The checks and balances I'm talking about are for the U.S. federal government. The Constitution divides the U.S. government into 3 branches: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. Each branch has its own job to do. Checks and balances keep each branch of the government from using their job to become too powerful. How? Here's an example. Congress is the legislative branch. It's split into the House and the Senate, so it already has some checks built right in. The main job of Congress is to create bills that one day may be turned into laws. But Congress can't go around making any laws they want and expecting everyone to be okay with it. That's what parents are for, right? So when Congress passes a bill, it goes to the president for approval. As the head of the executive branch, the president can sign the bill into law or veto it. The president's decision is a check on the lawmaking power of Congress. But what if Congress doesn't agree with the president? Congress can override the president's veto if 2/3 of its members vote to do so. Even though this is very difficult to do, it's how Congress is able to check the power of the executive branch. But that's not all. The judicial branch of government, or the Supreme Court, can also check lawmaking power. If a law is challenged in court, a judge might decide that the law is unconstitutional. That's like saying it should have never been made. It can even throw out a law that has gone through Congress and been approved by the president. Now, don't think the Supreme Court's just there to delete everyone else's work. Their power of interpreting law and settling disputes has checks too. For instance, Congress has the power to make an amendment to the Constitution. This is a long and difficult process, but it can make that law they wanted to pass constitutional. In addition, it's the president's duty to select and appoint federal judges. This check prevents the Supreme Court from creating its own rules for selecting judges. That's good because who knows? I might want to be a judge someday. And I don't want somebody making up new rules to stop me. After the president selects a federal judge, the Senate, part of the legislative branch, must approve his choice. This is a check on the executive branch. It makes sure the president isn't picking judges without the Senate's consent. Congress has final say on the number of federal courts and judges. This is another check on the judicial branch's power. The president can do more than pick judges. The president has the power to issue an executive order to deal with some situations, like if there's an emergency. Maybe he needs to send troops overseas to stop a rebellion and rescue Americans in danger. But even executive orders have limits. Only Congress can declare war. That means unless Congress supports the executive order, the troops will eventually be called back. Plus, Congress must approve paying for these actions, so the president can't keep the troops in action if Congress doesn't give him the money. The Supreme Court could rule the executive order to be unconstitutional, just like it could a law. The president is the leader of the executive branch, but if he gets power hungry or starts breaking laws, then the House can vote to impeach. That means bring charges against the president. Once impeached, the president goes on trial. Both the legislative and judicial branch can check the power of the executive through the impeachment process. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court presides over the trial. The Senate decides whether the president is guilty. This is a serious check. As of 2013, it's only happened twice, and neither was found guilty. One of those presidents was a fan of giving out pardons. Have you ever heard of a pardon? It's like forgiveness. The president has the power to pardon, which is a check on the judicial branch, since the courts can punish criminals. Sometimes the president or other executive leaders can make treaties with other countries, but the Senate must approve any agreement before it's official. If it seems like the president is checked a lot, it's true. From the beginning, Americans needed to be sure no president could take over and abuse their rights. The president can check the legislative branch by calling a special session of Congress. This might be due to an emergency, like the conflict situation I talked about before. Also, the vice president is president of the Senate. He or she can break a tie vote in the Senate. So, do you have this checks and balances thing down? Just remember, being a responsible citizen is super important. Responsible citizens make sure to voice their opinions and make the government work for them. After all, they are the most important check on the government.
All right, what is the rule of law? What does that mean? It means the law is the king. No one is above the law. Does that make sense? Everybody must follow the law. No one is above the law. That is what rule of law means. Okay, who are the first people to live in the Americas? Native Americans, right? Okay, what does the judicial branch do? They review the laws, and in our case, they can declare a law unconstitutional. Okay, I'm just saying there's more to it, but we're keeping it simple. Fair enough? All right. The judicial branch reviews the laws and sees how they compare to the Constitution. Oh, it says it right here. Reviews the laws, decides the laws is constitutional, resolves disputes between states. You probably don't need to know that right now, but that's a good one to know. Okay, president appoints justices. Congress confirms them. So you've got one branch of government that appoints the justice. The other branch of government says yes or no. What is that called? Separation of powers, right? Okay, checks and balances. We just learned about it. Make sure you know that. Okay, different ways to participate in your democracy. Write a newspaper, call a senator, vote, join a civics group. You can summarize this into two concepts. How do you participate in your democracy? Let your voice be heard, okay? These are from the book. I'm going to upgrade it to or update it to. Use Facebook. Say something. Join a political party. Exercise your freedom of speech. You have the right in this country. Listen, there are certain countries on this planet you can't talk to the politicians. It's a guaranteed right. That's your First Amendment right. That doesn't mean you can say anything you want, but you can go up to the president or your governor or your representative. You can call them and you can say, look, you voted this way on this law, and I would like you to vote this way on this law. Or you think this, let me tell you why I think you're wrong. You get to tell them. You can be like, look, man, you think that this is the way it is, but here on the ground, the intel says what you're making, the decisions you're making aren't going to work. And let me update you. Okay? You can say that. That's not a crime. They can't, no one cares. They want, you're allowed to do that. Okay? So you can, like it says write a newspaper. I'll translate that, write Facebook, call your senator or representative. I'll translate that, tweet them out. Vote. That's the other part. That's the second thing you can do is you can vote them in, vote them out, vote your conscience, whatever, and then join a civics group, join like-minded people. Okay, if you've got a group of people and you want to, participate and make some issue come to light and grow people's knowledge about an issue, that's not a crime in America. Like, that's welcome. Okay. Okay. Give your opinion to your leader or rep. Join a group of like-minded individuals. Vote. There we go. There's the summary. Who signs bills that become a law? 1, 2, 3. President. What branch is the president in? Executive branch. Remember, he's the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of America. Okay, he or she is the Chief Executive Officer of America. CEO, President. How many representatives in the House of Representatives? 435. Remember that number, 435. Now, here's a great question. Why do some states have more representatives than other states? That doesn't seem fair. Is that fair? Let's just pick some states. Why does Texas have more representatives than Wyoming? Do you know why? Because Texas has more people than Wyoming. It's not the size. Hey, I could have said, why does New Jersey have more representatives than Wyoming? Okay, Wyoming's bigger as far as geographical land, but we're not talking about the size of the state with regards to how much land. We're talking about the size of the state with regards to how much people. New Jersey has more people, therefore they have more representatives. Does that make sense? How many senators does New Jersey have? 2. How many senators does Wyoming have? 2. You have the same amount of senators, but you have different amount of representatives. What's that called when they put these two systems together? The Great Compromise. Don't forget about that stuff as well. Name 2 parts of Congress. We just talked about it. Senate and House of Representatives. Don't forget. Together they're called the Congress. Okay, so who is the vice president right now? Kamala Harris. Make sure you know that. And if there was a tie in the Senate, she would break it. Remember, the Senate has 100 senators, so it's possible to have a 50-50 vote, and then she would be the tie-breaking vote. Okay? Excellent. Who was the 23rd president? Just kidding. I don't know that off the top of my head. I can look it up, but you don't need to know that. Okay? Let's keep going. Who is the president now? Okay? Who is your representative? Now, this will change depending on where you're watching this video at. Here, our representative is Chris Stewart. All right? I also want to mention this. You know, the president, he's responsible for the entire country. The senator, they're responsible for your entire state. The representative is responsible for the district. It's smaller. In theory, this is the person you call if you need to get government action. You call the representative because they're easier to get a hold of. All right? What does the president's cabinet do? These people will advise the cabinet. Advise the president. All right? They don't make laws because the Congress makes laws. The president's cabinet just advises the president on different ideas and different policy ideas. Name 3 federal powers. This sounds like a hard question. This is one you have to think it through. First off, what's the original reason for government? What's the most important function of a government? To protect you. So what's a federal power? The military, right? Okay, the federal government has a military. Your state, they might have a National Guard, but they don't have the same Air Force or the same submarines or the same capacity that the federal government does. The federal government runs the military. All right. What else does the federal government do? They print your money. Okay, take a look at your dollar bill. If it says dollar bill of Florida on it, that ain't real. Okay, it needs to say USA to be a real dollar bill. And then they can make treaties with countries and stuff like that, and trade agreements and things like that. Okay, why did the colonists come to America? There's a variety of reasons, but basically they don't feel they're getting treated correctly from England. Okay, they're being disrespected. So they're looking for freedom. And when we talk about freedom, we're talking about political freedom, religious freedom, and economic freedom. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. When was the Declaration of Independence adopted? Oh, come on. I'll give you a hint. Fireworks, hamburgers, boom, 4th of July. Make sure you know that. July 4th, 1776. That is when we celebrate the Declaration of Independence. That is why you're launching your fireworks, and that is why you are having a hamburger or a hot dog. If you're like me, we do the hamburger with bacon and cheddar and barbecue sauce and onion rings. Okay, it's like a Western bacon cheeseburger, but we do it the homemade style. Anyway, that's just my 4th of July. You do what you want.